configuration, how to set up server, client, and workstation, development kit. So we install the packages, we did the configuration, and then we added the node to the client. So one thing you have to make sure is, while adding the servers, we need to have the host name defined properly. If you just type host name, it should give a host name, right? So that host name has to be added to etc host of all the machines. Okay. And the networking should be proper. Each machine should ping each other, and the IP to host name resolution should happen, right? If that is done, chef works. So the command which we use on the chef client is chef client, and the command which we use on the chef development kit or workstation is knife. Okay. And the command which we use on the chef server is chef server CTL, right? And we need to copy the keys from server to development kit, server to client, and for authentication and authorization. Once that is done, we can run the cookbooks. So how do we write the cookbooks? So we need to go to the development kit. So everything, whatever you want to do, that we have to do on development kit. And we have to create a directory called cookbooks. This is root chef repo cookbooks. Under that, we can execute knife. Actually, the command is knife cookbook create, let us say Apache. But this command is deprecated. Now there is a new command called chef. So earlier the command was knife cookbook create Apache. Now it is deprecated, and so people are using this chef generate cookbook and the cookbook name. So if I execute this, it says the command is deprecated. Use chef generate cookbook. So chef generate cookbook and the cookbook name. So this will create a directory with the name Apache, with the directory structure. So if I go inside Apache, chef repo cookbooks Apache, under that all these directories will be present. So under that, recipes is the default directory where default.rb is present. So this is from where the execution of the cookbook starts. So by default everything is commented. This is written in Ruby. So that's why the extension is .rb, and if I open it, everything is commented. So we can start writing the code for chef. So this code we have to write in JSON, right? And the JSON syntax is resource and the type of resource type, and then name of the resource, do, end. In between we write the action. The action we write like start, enable, install, or whatever, right? So something like this we need to write. So this is the cookbook. So let us start writing a small cookbook. Delete everything. Okay. So the first thing is, let us create a file as temp file 123. Then do action, actually it's content. So for file, the content is, let us say hello world. Right, and then end. Right. So I just want to create a file, temp file 123, and the content of it should be hello world.
Santosh, this cookbook file doesn't exist. It creates and adds the content, right?
Yeah, it creates and adds.
And also, you are pulling from a client, right? These cookbooks.
Sorry, from?
we are running you said it's chef works on based on pull process, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. Just wait a minute.
Yeah. What ports you need to open between server and clients?
Please use syntax. Allow one. So by default, ports 80 and 443 have to be opened on the server.
Okay.
That is what we did using IP tables. If you remember when we are setting up Chef for the first time.
Yeah. To access through web, we used to open. You need to open 88 443.
Yes.
Okay.
So 10 dot. What is IP? Let me see. Server IP 190. Okay, let's just open anyway. This takes time. So we have server, we have client, we have development kit. From development kit, if I execute knife node list, it will give the node if the node is successfully added. Okay, I need to go to this directory. And if there are multiple nodes, it will give information about the multiple nodes. So there can be any number of nodes. So by default, it supports 25 nodes, the open source version. So here client 1 is the node name which I have added. So like this, I can add several machines, right? So by default, it supports still 25 nodes. Open source supports nodes 25, right? How many nodes Ansible supports? How many nodes Ansible supports? Open source version of Ansible supports.
It's 25.
It is
Ansible is 100. Ansible is 100.
Right. Puppet is 10.
So nodes mean clients. You mean?
Yeah, clients or slaves.
Okay, so I mean slaves where you can do the automation, right?
Right.
Okay. So if it's 25 open source, you have to buy the license from somewhere, from Chef, or to
After
get
25, if you want to manage, you have to buy the license from Chef.
from Chef. Okay. And they support also?
Yeah, they support.
Yeah, or else we can make parts, right? 25.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can. But if you want to have something like a centralized management, you write all cookbooks at once and you want to have a consolidated view, then we need to buy the license. Okay. So let me see if it is I'm able to access. Okay, let me sign in. So we started writing the cookbook for Apache, and the recipes default.rb is the default file, and then content, and then end. Right. So let us say I'll just run this cookbook. So from where do we run this cookbook? I have development kit, and this is a workstation. I have server, and I have a client. So chef is based on pull mechanism. So we need to execute from the client. So if I execute chef client, this has to get the cookbook from the server, synchronize with the server, and execute it. So it should create a file called chef repo cookbooks. Sorry, not on the server, not on the development kit. It should create a file called file123 temp file123 with the content hello world, right? So this is my client. and there is no temp file 1235. So this should be created when I execute chef client. When I execute chef client, it gets all the cookbooks. So let us see if this works. Will this work? So what are the steps to execute a cookbook? First we created a cookbook, right?
Yeah, we create a cookbook on the development kit, right? On this is a workstation, right?
Right. So create a cookbook using command chef generate cookbook name. Let us say here Apache. Then how does server knows that we have created a cookbook? We need to upload this cookbook to server, right? So knife cookbook upload Apache. So this will upload the cookbook to server. Once this is uploaded, this will upload with a particular version. That version we can mention in something called metadata.rp. We can also upgrade the version, that we'll see later. So now we have a cookbook, we have uploaded to server. Now how does development kit or the workstation knows that this cookbook has to be executed on a particular node? So for that we have to create something called run list. This is the association between server and client, right? So knife run underscore list, add server name, I mean the client name, then the cookbook name, let us say Apache. So if we do this, this cookbook will be associated with that particular server. Then when we execute chef client on the client, it gets executed, right? So first we executed this step. Let us upload this to server, right? So I'll
So
go here.
run list is a file we're going to create on the server, right?
Yes, it's a command, so that will create the association between the.
Oh, it's a command. Okay.
Yeah, knife. Let me see the syntax.
Did we already upload to a server? I think so. We haven't uploaded to a server.
I think we did not upload.
Okay.
Cookbook upload. What is the name of the cookbook? Apache.
Apache.
Okay. So uploading the Apache with version 0.1.0. From where this version has come, this version is inside Cookbooks, inside Apache. There is something called metadata.rb. Here we mention the version. See, version of the cookbook is 0.1.0. If this version, if you want to change something and if you give 0.2.0, then it will create two versions. So where do we see the versions on the server? So if you go to the graphical user interface, so this is the client which we added. This name can be anything, ABC, XYZ, Web1, Web2, right? Or this can be host name also for easy identification. And this is the platform, CentOS, and this is the fully qualified domain name, client. This is the host name of the machines. And this is the IP address, uptime, and all it will show. Environment will show. And we'll see what is environment. And if you see, all the attributes of that machine will be shown here, right? If you go to attributes, so this is what is the system information. What is the CPU? What is the file system? What is the hardware architecture? What is the OS information? What's the flavor, kernel, memory, network, everything it will show up here. So this is like Ansible Facts, which collects information about the system, right? You go here to the client and execute. Oh hi, this will give information about the system. So this is again like all the parameters about the system information. Okay, so the same information will be captured and shown here on the graphical user interface of the chef server, right? So we have chef client added here. Okay, so here there is something called run list. Okay, so here also there is something called different options. You can delete the node from here. You can edit the run list from here only. So there is a command to create the run list, right? So here roles we'll see later. So this is recipes, this is run list. So if you want to add a recipe to a particular node, either we can do it from command line or we can do it from the graphical user interface as well. So this is simply like drag and drop. And if a new recipe is uploaded, it will show up here. And just click on it and drag it to here. So that will create a run list. Okay. So first let us do it from the CLI. So on the development kit, knife, what is the command to create the run list? Knife node run list add. So here we have to give the machine name, client.
I thought the run list we're gonna create on the server. So it's not on the server; it's on the development kit.
Everything is in the workstation. We don't even have to log into the server. If we want to see the graphical user interface, then only we need to log into the server, right? So knife node run list add client and the cookbook name. Client or client 1. What is my node name? Okay, it is client 1. Okay, server is not responding. This is okay. It will retry 5 times, and if server responds, it will add that. Okay, so this is added. So client 1 has a run list. It has 2 cookbooks. One is Apache, the other is sample. So we just added Apache, right? So when we execute chef client from the client, so it synchronizes these cookbooks. Either if there is any change or if there is any new cookbook added, that cookbook will be executed on the client, right? So chef is based on pull mechanism. So let us go to client and execute client.
So on the client, we're just gonna run chef client. That's it.
Right. So now it's resolving the cookbooks for run list. There are 2 cookbooks associated with this particular node. So it will try to execute 2 cookbooks. If there is any change in the cookbook, it will execute that. Otherwise, it will ignore.
Okay.
So Chef works in an environment which is very complex and where our servers are like servers with huge capacity, right? So we have clients can be like any configuration, but Chef server has to have very good configuration, something like huge hard disk, huge CPU, huge RAM, right? Okay, it is creating a new file, temp file 123, and if we see what is the content of this after this gets executed. So there is another cookbook that is actually to create temp log 1 that I just created to check whether setup is working fine. So it is up to date, that's why I did not touch it, right? If there is any change in the cookbook, then only it gets executed, otherwise it will ignore. Now it has executed the new cookbook which we have added, that is temp file 123, and it is successful. What is happening on graphical? Okay, so server, if server works fine, it will show the run list here. What are the cookbooks associated here? So create cookbook, upload the cookbook, create the run list, then run chef client on the client. So this will execute the chef client cookbooks on the client. So if we have multiple clients like that, we need to execute chef client on the multiple nodes. So how do we execute if we have huge number of clients? Let us say I have one server, I have one development kit or workstation, I have 100 clients, right? So every time executing chef client on all the machines, on all 100 machines is again a tedious task, right? So how do we execute this in production? It is not like Ansible wherein if we execute Ansible playbook from the server at once, it will execute on all the 100 machines, right? So this is chef. It is based on the pull mechanism. So we need to execute this on all the machines. So is there any way this can be automated?
A cron job,
Maybe.
you can make a cron job on each client.
Yes. So we can create a cron job. So there is something called cron tab. In the cron tab, we can add the chef client, right? So cron tab is something like to schedule the jobs. Cron tab -L to list the jobs. Cron tab -E is to edit it, right? So this chef client command can be added to cron tab, so that we can define like when do you want to execute. So every day 5 p.m. So every day 5 p.m. chef client will be executed. If there is any new cookbook added or edited, it will get executed.
So we have to create that cron tab on every client?
Yes.
Okay.
So this temp file 123 is created on the client with hello world content. So this is the resources errors. Server returned error 500 because of huge resources. It's because of the huge consumption. It is not able to get the outputs properly. But this is how it works. If we have a proper server with proper capacity, chef server will be holding the cookbooks, and when we execute chef client from the clients, it gets and executes the cookbook, right? And we can also see what is happening on the server, what are the run list and all on the graphical user interface. Okay, is this clear?
Yeah, yes, Santosh. Can you quickly just copy and paste your Vagrant file? Like, what is the configuration? Is there which server you're pulling, or IP configuration, the Wagner file, just whenever you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll do it at the end of class. Okay. So
Sure.
we have created the cookbook and it is executed on the client, right? So if you see here, it will create with the version 0.10. Now I want to maintain my code as the infrastructure, right? Infrastructure as code. Now we created a cookbook with 0.1.0 version. Now I only have three steps, 3 lines in that. Let us say file something like temp 1, 2, 3. And it is enclosed between do and end block, and there is something like we can add the code here, and content I add as hello world, right? And now let us say tomorrow another DevOps developer comes and he enlarges this code and added something else, right? So file temp file 1, 2, 3, 2, and let us say he created something else. He added few more lines or deleted few more lines. Let us say 100 lines of code is there. Now this has to be created with 0.20 version, right? Because we want to version the code. So that we'll not lose the changes, and it is to track the history. So these 2 versions we can maintain if we give the version in metadata.rb. Give the version as 0.20. So server will have 2 versions. One is 0.10, the other is the 0.20. So let us say I want to create a file, and let us say I modified the content, something else. And also while creating the file, I want to create with a specific user. Okay, so that also we can do using Cookbooks. Okay, first let us try this by changing the content, by changing the version.
So basically we are doing how to create the same cookbook but with a different version?
Yeah, same cookbook with different version, but this is not getting refreshed. If it is getting if it gets refreshed, it will show 2 cookbooks here. Cookbooks sample and one more version should be here, Apache, that we created. So fine. So let us try to do the same thing from the server. So graphical user interface is not responding. That's fine. So cookbooks Apache default.rb recipes default.rb. This is the main file from where the execution starts. So I'll go here. Let us say I'll add one more content, hello world 1, 2, 3. Right. And now I want to upload with the different version. Right. So how do I upload? There is something called Apache metadata.rb. Here I'll change the version to 0.2.0. Okay, so now both versions should be available. Now what is the next step? I need to upload it to my cookbook. Upload.
Sorry, I don't get like how you change the version. So I still don't understand that.
Okay. So there is a file called metadata.rb inside etc root chef repo cookbooks. This is the default directory where all cookbooks are stored, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So under cookbook, when we create a cookbook, it will create a folder or directory with the name Apache, right?
Yeah.
Under this Apache, there is something called metadata.rb file created by default. This metadata is data about data, right? So something like everything about the cookbook, the versions will be there. So here there is a field called version. By default, it is 0.1.0, right? Okay. So when we upload the cookbook with to the server, it creates a version 0.1.0. Under that, the contents will be stored. Right? Now if I change this version to 0.2.0, so there will be two versions on the server, 0.10 and 0.20. This will have 0.10 version, this will have 0.20 versions, right?
So basically you open that metadata.rb
Yeah.
file and edit the file and change it to 0.20.
Right. So if I go here, okay, I'm uploading it. I'll show you once this is done.
Okay.
So I opened the metadata.rb. I changed 0.10 to 0.20 and I'm just uploading it.
Okay.
If this graphical interface works, it should actually show everything properly. Okay.
Okay, I got you. Basically, you get into the file, change the version there, and then upload the same file with the new content, right? Then there's going to be a new file. It's not overwriting, but adding a new file.
A new file.
Okay. Okay, I got you.
Because we want to maintain the code. So this is our infrastructure. We are maintaining our infrastructure as code.
But that is something manual thing we have to do like every time when you, for example, if you don't change the file, let's say somebody come up and upload the file with the same name, then that file is going to be overwritten?
Yeah, that gets overwritten. So one solution for it is to store the cookbooks in centralized repository, either GitHub or Stash or Bitbucket, right?
Okay, yeah, because
so when we we have to install Git here on the development kit, and if we modify something, we have to first clone the repository where all the cookbooks are present, and then if we change something, we need to upload. So that will automatically upload to the centralized server with a different version.
Yeah, in that case, we don't have to go and change the name, change the
version here.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, that sounds like a good solution.
Yeah. Okay, it says server is not available. Let us see if it's uploaded or not. If I execute from here, if it gets the latest cookbook, that means it's uploaded. Otherwise, we need to do it again. Okay.
If you're gonna upload to the GitHub, it's gonna be, and then the server gonna take it from GitHub from all the
server will have the local this thing database, PostgreSQL, and it will store all the cookbooks in there.
Okay. I was thinking, for example, from the workstation, you clone the cookbook to the GitHub, right?
Yeah, from workstation. That is just for storing on the GitHub for maintaining the versions.
But you still have to upload the same or whatever you want to upload to the server as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because the server cannot take the files from the GitHub, right?
Yeah, it cannot take it.
Yeah.
So there are
GitHub can be used just for the version control thing, right? That's okay.
For version, yes.
Okay.
So let us say which version it picks up. So it's trying to resolve two versions. One is sample, the other is Apache.
Is it resolving to the IP with the name? I think maybe it's taking that much time because of some maybe.
Okay, so it has taken the old version only. No, this is because server is not responding. Error 500. It says up to date. This is also up to date. Means whatever we uploaded is not uploaded.
Okay.
The server is not available. Anyway, we try to upload again. So this is how we upload. We continuously change the cookbooks and we modify the files, right? So now we can have a lot of attributes in this. Let us say I want to create the file with some user ID and the group ID. I want to create a file. By default, it will be created with particular user, but I want to create with user 123, group 123. Permission is called mode with, let us say, 755. So this will create a file with this attributes, right? with user123, group123 with some permissions. Now let us say I don't want to define these attributes inside the cookbook, but I want to define this inside a something like a configuration file, right? So all those attributes I want to take out from here, and I want to use the variables, right? So something like user, and I want to use a variable here so that later at any point of time I can modify this and I can use that variable, right? So if we have the variable here, I don't have to touch my cookbook. I can just edit my configuration file, and if I edit there, it automatically picks up and creates with that particular user. So for that we have something called defaults directory, defaults file under the cookbooks. Okay, so default file. So under this defaults file, I can write something like this: user. What is the syntax? There is a syntax. So this I need to replace with some variable that will be taken from this defaults file.
One more thing, Santosh, you log into the chef server with the root username password. That
Yeah, I
is
logged in as root.
oh that sorry.
I logged in as root. Yes.
Oh yeah, the root user, that one we have on the server,
No,
right?
actually I logged into Chef as the user ID which I created, but I logged into CLI as root, but I'm not doing anything on the server actually so far,
Okay.
right? So I logged in as a organization is the user, and I created a user for myself. With that I logged in, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So let me see the syntax. There is some syntax for this. This is a Ruby syntax. How do we define the users? That's default. So here I need to give something called default and user, and here also I need to give default and the group. So here we have defined a variable called user and group, and this we can use inside the user node user. So this way we can use this inside the cookbook. So we can have any number of variables defined, and that variables we can use with this notation, right? We define the variables inside the default file, and then we use the variables inside the cookbook using user and group and the variable name. Variable name is node user. Okay. And let us say the simple, let us say I want to install the package and perform something, right? So the action is install, and let us say I want to start the service httpd do action is start and enable, right? So the enable is to make it persistent across tables. Again, there is a syntax this way. This is the Ruby syntax to write right, end, and let us say I want to copy the template, right? So here again there is a syntax same like Ansible. Here we call it template, and then the file name. Where do we want to copy? Where www.html index.html. Then we can give the destination, source index.html. It will take from the templates directory, and I need to give here do and end. Right. So this way, if you want to copy a file, same like template, we have something called cookbook underscore file. Cookbook underscore file. So this is same like our file. This is for copying the text files, and this is for copying the non-text files. Something like image and all we can copy using cookbook underscore file resource type. These are the resource type: package, service, template, user, right, which we created a user with user, file. These are all the resource types, and these are the resource names: service, httpd, http. This is the resource name which we want to create, and this is the mostly this is the desired state. I want my package to be in the installed state. I want my service to be in the started and enabled state, right? So we specify the file and we specify the desired state, and it will take care. And one difference with respect to Ansible, if you see how did we install a package in Ansible. In Ansible playbook, let's say I want to install a package, right? So the YAML cookbook we write, host we specify hyphen web servers, etc. We specify, right? Let's say I want to install a package. So how do you specify? We specify tasks, right? Under the task we give name, install a package. Then what is the module we use here?
Yum.
Yum, right? So here we need to specifically tell I need to use Yum. If it is RHEL, I need to use app if it is Ubuntu. But here we are not telling anything. We are just telling package HTTPD. So here Chef will internally take care of checking what kind of distribution is it, what is the command I need to use. I just said use install the package, that's all. It internally takes care of whether it has to use Yum, it has to use apt-get. Okay. Is it uploaded? Let us see. Okay, it's not able to upload. Okay, let us create a new cookbook. Chef generate under cookbooks directory, chef generate cookbook Apache 1. This will create a directory. Under the directory will modify. Okay, so there will be a directory called Apache 1 created. Under that, these are the files. So under that, there is something called recipes. Under recipes, default.rb is there. So this will modify and copy the code which we have written here, right? So I want to install the package, I want to start the service, I want to copy the template. This is fine syntax wise. Package http do action install. Let me see. So enable and start. Fine. And okay, it's not SRC, it's source. try executing this cookbook. So first we need to upload. Knife cookbook upload. The name of the cookbook is Apache 1. Need to upload. We need to create a run list for associating that particular node with the cookbook, and then we need to run chef client from the server that will pick these changes and execute, install the package, start the service, copy the template. Okay, so we have not yet created the template, right? Index.html is something we need to create. Uploaded the cookbook. So let us create index.html here. So now I need to upload it again because I have changed the cookbook. Okay, it's uploaded. Let us see what is happening on the node. Okay, so now what is the next step? I need to create association between the cookbook and the node. So this cookbook is added. Now I need to add this to client 1. So knife node run list add client 1 Apache 1. This will create a run list between the cookbook and the client. So if we have 1000 clients and I have created a new Apache 1 cookbook, so we need to execute this 1000 times, right? Let us say I have 1000 clients. I need to create a user called user1234 on all 1000 clients, right? And I created a cookbook called let us say cookbook 123. Now I need to create run list between client and cookbook. So for this I need to execute the command. So do we need to execute this 1000 times? So instead of executing this 1000 times, so there is a way. What is that? I'll club all these 1000 servers together and form a role. So here role indicates collection of servers. Let us say I create a group called group 1 and I add all 1000 servers to it. So this is a one-time job. Right? Now whenever there is a new cookbook added, now I don't have to add that cookbook to all 1000 nodes. What do I do is I create an association between role and the cookbook. Means I create association between group 1 and cookbook 123. How do we do that? Same way, knife role knife node run list and group 1 and cookbook 123. So this will create association between the role and the cookbook. So this is equal to creating the run list 1000 times between the clients and the cookbook, right? So this is what is role. So let me go here and see. It is trying to create the run list between the client and the server, client and the cookbook. Is this clear? What is role? Role is to combine the servers generally based on the role they perform. All web servers will be combined to a role called web servers. All DB servers, all application servers, we can combine inside a group and we can associate a particular cookbook with that group, right? All the web servers, let us say I want to execute something called Apache.
So role is basically just list of servers, right?
Yes, it's a list of servers, group of servers by SQL.
I know in Ansible we also have roles, right?
That role is different and this role is different. This here role means it's a group of servers.
The group of servers. Okay.
Santosh, what command is used to create a group of servers? That means roles.
We'll see that there is something called knife role create from a file. We'll see that how to create role. Okay. So there is something called role that we need to create, and then we need to associate the cookbook with the role. So now if we execute chef client on all the clients, it automatically picks up that particular cookbook whichever we added. Okay. So this is added to run list. Now let us go to client and execute the cookbook. That should install HTTPD on the client, right? There is no HTTPD. Now let me go and execute chef client. If something is going wrong, to debug chef client, -i debug. This is a debug option. This will enable debugs. It will give more logs. Okay, something is wrong. Expecting colon somewhere in the default.rb in the second line. So we need to go here and edit the file. Sorry, that is books Apache 1 recipes default.rb, line number 2 is there should be space or something. Okay, this should be, there should be space this way. I think this should work. So there is a space between action and then colon install, action space colon start colon enable. So I changed something, so I need to upload it again. Okay, so coming back to roles. Role is a collection of servers. We can combine the servers based on the role they perform. All web servers can be combined to web server group, and we can associate Apache Cookbook with that. All DB servers we can combine and associate MySQL with them, and in the same way all application servers can be combined and we can name them as app servers, and some application we can create a cookbook, and then we can associate that with the app servers, right? So let us say there are 100 nodes here, and on every node at morning 10 o'clock, let us say I have created a cron tab that will execute chef client. So when someone has changed something to web servers group, the cookbook Apache, and if it is uploaded to server, every day 10 o'clock it will pick up the changes and it executes it, right? If nothing is changed, it will still execute the chef client, but there won't be any changes. So that way we can automate everything. So whenever there is a change in the cookbook, automatically that will be picked up by the server and it gets executed, right? So there is also something called environments. Something like, let us say there is a production servers, there are staging servers, there are testing servers, and there's development servers, right? So on everywhere there is a cookbook getting executed called Apache, right? And let us say Nginx server with version 1.0 is running on the production, right? In staging, or let us not talk about staging, or in testing, let us say there is a new version delivered in the market, and that version is, let us say, 2.0. Now, before testing, we cannot push it to production, right? So the same cookbook we need to modify. Let us say Apache. Instead of Apache, I'll say this is Nginx cookbook, right? So this cookbook with 0.10 version is running on the production, staging, testing, and development. Now there is a new version developed in the market. It is 0.2.0. I want to update my all servers, all testing servers to 0.2.0. So I created a new version of the cookbook, the same cookbook with 2.0 version. But now I need to restrict this playbook, this cookbook running on the production, because first I want to test it, the 2.0 version on all the test servers, and if it is working, then only I want to upgrade my production servers, right? So there is something called environments, wherein we can restrict which version has to be executed on which environment. So environments is to restrict cookbook version based on the environment. On production, I always want to run the stable cookbooks, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 or something like that. Always stable versions run here. In testing, if there is any new version delivered in the market, I want to upgrade and test it. So when I say chef client on the testing servers, it automatically picks 2.0. When I say chef client on the production server, it will always have 1.0. So that way we can create the environments. Again, there are commands to create the environments, modify the version and all. We'll see that. Is this clear so far? Okay, it is uploaded. Let us try to execute the chef client. How do we create cookbook for the first time? Chef generate cookbook. That will create the entire directory structure, and then first we upload to server, then we create the run list, then we execute on the nodes using chef client command. Chef is based on pull mechanism, so we need to execute chef client on the client to get the cookbooks synchronized. Now this is getting executed. Apache, there is no change. Sample, there is no change. Apache 1 is the cookbook which is added newly, right? So this is up to date. This is up to date. Now it is executing a recipe. Recipe is something like a task, and this task internally is executing yum install httpd on the client, right? I did not specify to use yum or to use apt-get. I just said package httpd desired stage install. Right, so it is internally taken care. It is using yum http install. Okay, there is some error. Package is installed, service is started, where www.index.html file not found. What is not found? Okay, I need to have a directory called templates. Under that, I need to have index.html. Okay, I think I created in the wrong place. So let me go to chef repo, Cookbooks, Apache 1, create a directory templates. The templates I'll copy. again I need to upload the cookbook. So it got executed, but there was a problem with the path of the file. That's why it's failed. Okay. Okay, let this load. Okay, so this will take time. So we'll stop here. Tomorrow we'll see roles, environments, and some more books. How to write the
You
cookbooks.
can go to the Vagrant file if you can just take
Yeah,
copy that.
I'll just.
And also if you can copy all those notepad also.
Yeah, I'll just exit. So this is the same Vagrant file which we used some time back, right? It has a public network. It has a name. I only added this thing, I think, server name, so that it will give. It will only modify the host name of the server. It will create with the name server.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got that one. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Thanks. Bye.